So for those of you that have received my emails, Julia is a caterer, but she specializes in tea parties. So tea parties is very much an English thing, having sandwiches, serving tea and stuff like that. And I met her on a project that we participated in together last year. It was an EU-funded project on women in the agricultural sector. And, when she came on that project to present about her business, it was, I really, really felt inspired. Her story was very inspiring. And I said, if I ever had the opportunity to host something like this, I would like to have her on so that she can come and share her inspiring story with us. So, Julia, it's a great pleasure to have you here. So if I just go back to the chat, I'll just notice Alec from Solihull in the UK, Keith in Tacoma. So thanks everyone for being on here. We're going to be making a start now with the questions. Other people that do join in, it's being recorded, so they can always get the recording. So Julia, again, thanks for your time here today, and we're going to be making a start on the questions. And as we go on, for those in the, in the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to, just put up your hands and ask the questions. Either you type it in the chat or you do it vocally. Anyone is fine. We want to try and make it as interactive as possible. That's hence Fireside Chat. It's a chat where people can, give their own take here and there as we go on. So we're going to start asking Julia some questions now, and we're starting from where it all started. So if we go back, Julia, to your childhood, because usually when you speak to entrepreneurs, there's usually something that inspired them. It might have been a long-time passion, it might have been a life-changing situation, but there's something that sort of got them to where they are to start that business. So Julia, do you want to just tell us about your childhood? What was it like?
Sure. So hi, everybody. Thank you for obviously coming on today to listen. So really, really appreciate Winfred asking me to join. So going back to my childhood, I was one of 5 children. So as I'm sure you can imagine, it was quite a busy household. We weren't a wealthy family in material things, but we were in sort of love and being together. My mum, she, as we started to sort of grow up and that, she had various part-time jobs, sort of some cooking, some cleaning, vegetable picking, because we lived in quite a rural area. And as time went on, obviously, I helped keep house as well. My mum had some ill health, so I spent quite a bit of time with my sister, and when I was at home, learning all of the cooking, cleaning, domestic stuff. So but my mum was very much my role model in that you should appreciate everything that is around you. And I very much went on from that, doing things like babysitting. I used to go and pick vegetables in the fields, some factory work in the summer. So it was, as being one of 5 children, lots of hand-me-down clothes and things. Of course, when you get a bit more independent, you can, it is nice to sometimes, when you work hard and you save for things, to be able to buy, like some clothes or some, showing my age here, some records, which was like way back. So the foundations of cooking were always there for me.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was very nice to hear. Very humble beginnings, of which most of us all share that. Now, if we go to entrepreneurship now, as you've grown, you've been beginning to earn some money. Why? How did you get into entrepreneurship? How did that all happen?
Well, kind of when I left school at the age of 16, I wanted to get out there into the big wide world. I have to say, I couldn't wait to get out of education, which I don't regret it, but I do sort of think, you never know what path life is going to take you on. And I actually had a job interview for a job in catering, because that was really, really what I wanted to do. And I went along to the interview, and it was at a school, and it was a school kitchen, and the place absolutely terrified me. Absolutely terrified me. And I just thought, no, I can't do this, I can't do this. And my other passion in life was reading. And they also had a job in the library. So I took the job in the library. I took the safer option. And that set me on a pathway of doing administration. So I did that for like nearly 30 years. During that time, like, started my family. And then you never know what life has for you around the corner. I was then diagnosed with breast cancer, and I ended up with stage 3 breast cancer. So I had quite intensive treatment for that. So I couldn't work at that period of time. I was a government servant. But unfortunately, whilst I was having my treatment, they actually dismissed me. So, which left me at an all-time low and going through treatment to save my life. So it does really, really make you rethink everything. So after they dismissed me, when I had a good day, I redeveloped my passion for cooking, because I just thought I couldn't really go out. I wasn't fit enough to do that. But I'd go in my kitchen and make some cakes, and I thought, oh, shall I make some sandwiches and some sausage rolls? So one Friday afternoon, I set out a little afternoon tea for my kids in my kitchen, popped them a note on the door saying kitchen was open, there was a table available. So, because I'm just totally nuts, I'm afraid. I like doing silly things, it's part of life. Things have to be fun. So they came in and had afternoon tea in the kitchen. I didn't even have a proper cake stand. I had a cardboard one. So, but they loved it and enjoyed it. And some friends it, and they're like, oh, well, we'll come round, when you're feeling okay, and we'll come and have a cup of tea with you and some cake. And, I just really, really enjoyed it, because it was such a good way of getting back out there again. And people started giving me china and cake stands and stuff. So it was kind of born from there, really. So, yeah, I had no job. And I started applying for jobs when I thought that I was feeling a bit better. And I just wasn't even getting an interview. But, so I just thought, I have to rethink this as to what I'm going to do. And through lots of encouragement from my family and friends, I just thought, actually, what have I got to lose other than trying it and eating lots of cake?
Nice. That's very inspiring, finding a way out of illness, in a sense, not necessarily out of illness, but, thinking your way through it and using, your recovery. I think most people that when you tend to speak to people that have had this kind of life, changing illness, would tell you, when you've come out of it, you really have nothing to lose, because it's like you've been given a second chance. And
absolutely,
might as well make a very good use of it. So great to hear that. So now that if we go through how you've gotten better, you're now using your kids to get yourself ready for the real world. And what are some of the, so as you started this, what are some of the things that made you feel like this is what I should do? There might have been several options for you to do, several businesses for you to do. How did you know that, if I go for this, I'll do well?
Yeah, because obviously I'd been dismissed from my previous job. I wasn't even getting through the sift for any job applications, because obviously you have to record what's happened. And I just felt in the end that I wasn't employable, and I truly felt totally worthless. And I had anxiety and depression, as well as all the treatment that was going on. And I'm not a quitter. I'm a fighter. And there was just something inside that was eating away at me, because I had to show that I wasn't on the scrap heap, and that I could do something and I could make something. My sister as well, she was getting married around this time as well. And I was really, really happy because I could play, because I had time on my hands to plan things. I planned her hen weekend. So I was able to source sort of food and arrange things because I love organising things and people. and obviously for her wedding, I made part of one of her cakes for her wedding and that as well. So it just really, really made me happy. And obviously with the encouragement that I had, I just thought, no, I'm going to take this forward, because to me it was part of my recovery, and I love making people happy and knowing that by catering for their event, I've perhaps taken a burden off of them so that they can enjoy it or relax. So it's rewarding.
Okay, great. Yeah, so as we go on, for those in the audience, if you have any questions, remember you can just put your hands up or type it in the chat. We'll take the questions as we go. So back to you, Julia. Now, if we go through your growth journey, what has it been like? So from starting the business, with little resources that you had, and then growing it to what it has become now. I'm one of your connections on LinkedIn. I usually see all your posts, and I know that your business is really doing well. So do you want to tell us what it has been like?
Sure. So when I started my business, as I've already alluded to, I had very little in the way of materials of any kind. So I started my business on a shoestring, really. People gave me bits of china. I scoured things like charity shops, junk shops, car boot sales, eBay, all those kinds of things, to gradually get enough china and tablecloths. And I started in my family kitchen, and my popularity grew with doing my tea parties, and I found that it got really difficult.
Sorry, Julia, can you go on?
That's okay, that's fine. So I've lost my train of thought now. So it was getting really difficult to be able to bake and prepare food with family life, because obviously you've got to clean everything down, things have got to be kept separate. So as my business grew, I realised that I had to take some sort of action to be able to grow my business. So we looked around, and it was a good time. And we moved to a property. It was a complete renovation project, and I had to take a few months out on my business to be able to do it, but allowed me to have my own work kitchen space. So I've got my own, so I still work from home, but I have my own business area. And literally, there's a question just came up for Tim. So financially, I literally started with just £200-300. That was all that I had, and I gradually grew that as I got work, and was paid for that. I gradually bought more equipment. Obviously I needed to buy like mixer, certain things, and more china, more tablecloths, storage containers. So as my business grew, I literally put every penny back into it that I earned, to fund my journey forward. So my kitchen that I have now, I have 4 ovens in there. So I have quite a capacity for the amount of work that I can take on. And I can say that on the 1st of May this year, my business, Creme Brulee, will actually be 5 years old. So, it's been hard. It has been hard, obviously, with some things that everybody has suffered with through COVID and stuff. Okay. I know we're going to touch onto that a bit later.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that one, Julia, because A lot of things now, because I do a lot of mentoring for early stage entrepreneurs, some of the things they tend to really get excited about is raising finance very early on. But I think it's quite interesting that you've taken a bootstrapping approach, which is, which is advisable. That's really one of the best advice you can give anyone starting off. Start as lean as possible, like you've done.
Yes.
Try and get things from boot sales, eBay, charity shops. Try and get the cost as low as possible. Then as you grow, then you can, afford to buy better things. But, taking out that big loan at the start of the business it's not the best advice. And, there's a very high probability that they will not give you the loan anyway.
Yeah.
So
I think my childhood taught me a very valuable lesson, because obviously very much I had to, if I wanted something, because there were 5 of us, there wasn't lots of money to go around. So we would all, you save for things, you do a bit of part-time work, some babysitting. And because of that, it makes me grateful for everything that I have got. And I'm a firm believer that you have to work for things. And if you don't have the money to have something, you don't have it. That's kind of, it's there inside me. If I'd have started my business with X amount of thousands of pounds of a loan, I wouldn't have slept. And also I think you have to consider about not starting too big too soon. I think because in your journey into business, like I'd never run my own business before.
Yeah.
You're learning all the time. You make mistakes. Nothing is always tickety boo, and you have to pick yourself up from that.
Yeah. Okay, great. So in terms of the growth, sort of increasing your customer base, how have you increased your customer base over time? If you want to share that with us.
Yeah. So with my customer base, I initially started with some social media, advertising in my local area. I had leaflets. I did some leaflet drops through people's doors in some of the local shops as well that would hold my leaflets. And one of the things that was a real confidence booster for me and quite pivotal in moving myself just that bit further forward was networking. I joined a couple of networking groups. One of them was a women's only group. And they were a very supportive group of ladies. But I also went to some mixed groups as well. And actually just getting yourself out there is great. Talking to other people. I'm very passionate about my business as well. And people tell me that comes across when I'm talking about it. And the other thing about meeting people face to face as well is that people always love me because I always take food with me. So people get to try my food because there's no better way of selling yourself than taking along what you create.
Okay, great, fantastic. So the networking is certainly very important, getting yourself out there. I do, it does make a lot of difference. It's amazing. The doors that can open when you put yourself out there.
I mean, you don't get immediate results from it. It's something that you grow over time, because you have to get to know people and that's vice versa.
Yeah. So, okay, great. So now moving on to COVID. So I know COVID-19. So this is, your business is 5 years next month. And I know that COVID-19 really hit the hospitality sector very, much more than other sectors. Now, do you want to tell us, you think that your business is very much a people-based business. So where there are gatherings and things. So, we go back to the 23rd of March when lockdowns were, implemented in the UK. How did you find your way? How did you get around COVID-19?
Yeah. So personally for me, I was just short of the 3rd anniversary of my business, and sort of the first 2 years are very finding your feet, and I was just at that point where you almost sometimes feel a little bit complacent, because I thought, life is good. I've got quite a full diary of events and bookings, and I just thought, this is going to be a really, really good year. And then COVID came along and slapped me down, basically, because literally as soon as lockdown happened, within 48 hours, literally my diary had completely emptied because people were genuinely scared, and none of us knew. So literally my diary emptied, and obviously I had people that had paid deposits and that for events, and it didn't feel right to me to keep any of their money, so I gave all of my clients that couldn't have their events, I gave them all a refund, because to me that made sound business sense. Because if you want to reattract your customers to come back to you, you have to be fair, because let's face it, it wasn't any of our fault as to what happened. So I then had to think to myself, well, what am I going to do? Because as still a relatively new business, the government grants that were available were based on my first 2 years. And of course, because I grew my business, I reinvested all of my earnings into buying equipment for the business. I didn't have a profit to show there. So consequently, I got £108 for my grant to live on for several months. So I knew that I had to take drastic action and get some money in. So I started doing biscuits by post, and doing treat boxes for different types of cakes, and doing afternoon teas in a box, which actually they became phenomenally successful. I actually had I've had 2 years near enough of being very, very busy during that period of time.
Okay, great, fantastic. And now in terms of, so I know that you started also in that time, the 3D biscuits and things like that. Do you want to tell us, how did you get into that? What was the thought process like? How did you?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, with events and obviously the tea parties, obviously the one real thing that COVID hit home to me is about trying to provide a regular sustainable income, because obviously with all events cancelled, that was all of my livelihood. So I had to consider other ways. So one of the things I came up with, as well as doing the boxes, and something that it's developing and it's growing and growing, is the 3D biscuits. So literally I can take any logo for a company. So this is my logo here. I don't know if people can see that. So creme brulee. So literally I took my logo and had it did the design and made it into a cutter. So I just stamped that into the biscuit dough, and it's great. So I'm creating a following for those, because every one of these is unique. So I can take any company logo anywhere across the world, and create biscuits for them, so they can use them as gifts for clients, exhibitions, networking, staff reward, recognition. So I'm at the moment, obviously I'm building on that, and I'm trying to build a subscription model where people can sign into having those on a regular basis, as part of their client and gifting and that as well.
Great. So if you can see my screen, this is a sample of the biscuits that the sort of 3D biscuits that Julia started during COVID-19. Okay, so thanks for that. Now we move on to the financing bit of things. Now, as you've grown your business, have you taken on any external finance, or have you grown it organically?
I've grown my business organically. I haven't taken any external finance at all. So because, as I said, I was on a learning journey with it as well. So I've just taken it as I've taken on extra work. I've just grown it, and I've done it that way. But obviously for the future, there are things that I want to grow the business more, because my next level would be to have a place where people can come and look at my work, because obviously this is still my home, though I have my business area, but I don't invite people into my home, so to speak. So to be able to have a completely separate work base is a next step. The other thing that I'd also like to have, I would like to have my own tea rooms. Obviously I can do pop-up events anywhere, I've got all of the stuff, but to actually have mine would be lovely. And also with my business, I'd actually quite like to franchise it as well, the biscuits and the tea side of it as well.
Nice.
So they're my future thoughts.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Those are really great growth expansion strategies. Now, I'll just take on a question from our audience. Adi said, if an individual is starting a business today after listening to your motivational story, what is the one skill or area the founder should be focused on?
I think is just don't ever give up. Follow your dreams, because unless you go and experiment and try things, you will never know if you can succeed at it. It's, believe in yourself, but don't ever be too proud to ask for help from people, because people have been a massive part of my journey. Without support and encouragement, I wouldn't be down the line of being in business for nearly 5 years. So yeah, believe in yourself. So
great, thanks for that. Now, if I think about, so if you just quickly touch upon sustainability and we look at the catering industry, do you think there's a place for sustainability in the catering industry?
Absolutely, totally. There most definitely is. I mean, for me, part of sustainability is my vintage china and my tablecloths, because I don't want to serve a paper cup that's going to be thrown in the bin. I want it to be served in nice, pretty china, and as well as it being nice, pretty china, it can be used again and again and again. And I have a young lady who washes and irons all my tablecloths for me. So that keeps her in some work as well. And obviously they can be reused time and time again. And part of it as well is I've got a little greenhouse now, so I'm in progress of setting all my seeds and growing things. So my idea is that my salad leaves, my cress, my tomatoes, my cucumber, and other fresh items that I use, some strawberries, that I will try and grow as many of them myself as I possibly can. I also work with a boat cruise company, and when I took that on last year, they were using lots of throwaway materials, and I made some suggestions there. They are still using disposable items, but they are ones that can be recycled and they're compostable. So the nature of it with COVID is that things have to be packed separately. Obviously, but there is the treading the line of keeping things affordable as well. So I try to keep balance of both. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, as we think about, and it's quite interesting because some people, when they hear sustainability, they think it has to be something fancy, but it's really the little things like you do, like using china as opposed to using disposable cups, or getting good quality tablecloth that you can use over and over again. It's just those kinds of little things that it does make a lot of difference. So it's great to hear that you do those things as well. Just to our audience, if you have any questions, please pop it in the chat as we go on. Now, as we sort of get to the end of this conversation with you, Julia, I want to say, as you've run the business, it's half a decade now. What has been your most challenging day so far?
Well, obviously, I've spoken about COVID. Obviously, that was devastating. But I'm going to go back further, actually. to when I'd been in business about just under 6 months. I was asked to do a charity event, and obviously I am very community minded. And obviously they, oh yeah, you know, can you bring enough food? You should be able to sell 150 afternoon teas. So literally, I put my heart and my soul into this. My husband, my son, my daughter, they all helped. Literally, we took tables and chairs, great big party tent for people to sit and have afternoon tea. And unfortunately, the event wasn't run very well. It wasn't advertised properly. And I ended up serving 23 afternoon teas. So I had 137 afternoon teas that didn't sell. So as you can imagine, the not just the time, but the financial cost that I had sitting there, it was quite devastating, actually. And I honestly thought I was finished after that. And I drove home from that event. My daughter was in the car with me, and I just cried. I sobbed, and I just said to her, I'm done, I'm finished. Because I knew that I was several hundreds of pounds in debt from it. I managed to repurpose some of the food to a couple of other charity events and just try and give food away to other, you know, family, friends and stuff. But yeah, I put my business into unfortunately, to do that particular event, I put myself into debt. And it took me a while to, you know, to recover from that with doing other events to pull that money back. But it was a hard lesson learnt, but I did learn a lot from it. And yeah, I as I said, I thought I was finished as I was driving home from that, because but my husband and my daughter and that, they were like, no, come on, you can't just give up because of this. And you know, it was just, yeah, you have to just pick yourself up from it. And it was a hard lesson learned.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really a lesson learned right there. But so as you've gone forward into the years, and it's very nice to know that you had that experience early on, isn't it? And it's sort of
Yes.
shaped how you do business now. So
Yeah.
how do you prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future? What have you done?
Yeah.
Precautionary.
I'm much more careful now, that obviously if I do a charity event, what I will say to people now is it has to be sold on a ticket basis.
Okay.
Has to be on a ticket basis, because that way then you know exactly who you have coming to your event. And the other thing is that when I do events, I have put a contract, just a very basic booking contract, and I do ask people to pay a deposit, which will cover the cost of the food.
Okay.
So the 99% of people are absolutely fine about that. They have no issues with that at all, and it just completely works, and it just means that that won't happen again.
Great. So we're going to be coming to the questions soon, but my final question for you, Julia, is now, entrepreneurship is becoming very popular, not just in the UK, around the world. The way it's portrayed on social media, like, be your own boss, those kinds of things. When you think about the way it's portrayed in social media and the way it's talked about and how it is in reality, do you think there's a difference?
Yes, most definitely. I think the thing is that with social media, there are a lot of fake stories and that out there. You have to look at, some of the get rich schemes, etc., some of the pyramid selling. Unless you're in there right at the start, you're not actually going to get much of a reward from it. And of course, on social media, people do want to paint the best picture. Now, don't take me wrong, I'm not a negative person, because I'm a very positive person. And I'm a firm believer that if you want something, you have to work for it. So you have to be prepared. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be committed to that. So you've got to put the time in. Research is massively key, knowing your customers, knowing your market. And the thing is people are always going to portray that positive image there on social media, but you have to see, if it's a kind of a get rich scheme, you think, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I'm going to be, on a 7-figure salary, or within a year. Well, you just think to yourself, well, actually, how? It's unless you're really Lady Luck really, really shines on you, that is not going to be the case. Just be realistic about it. Knowing your stuff, learning, and getting guidance and support, and is the way to go. And as I say, if I put negative posts, if I put a post on social media saying what a mess up I made when I did that charity event, who would want to use me? They wouldn't. They wouldn't want to use me. So I'm not going to tell people about that. So I'm going to put on a positive post there saying about what a marvellous job I did. So don't always believe what you read on social media.
Okay, great, thanks. So we take some of the questions we have in the chat. So Tim says, do you create your own recipes? Do you prepare custom food on request? And how do you select which teas go with the served food? So, and again, that your visuals are great, so.
So, do I create my own food? Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, also, if there are tried and trusted recipes out there, I use those as well. But I love Mary Berry recipes. There's a site on the internet called All Recipes. Their recipes are fantastic. They always work well. I'm also a massive fan. When I was in my teens, my sister bought me a Mrs. Beeton's cookbook. Mrs. Beeton is kind of a very, traditional type cookbook, going back to a long way back. But her recipes are simple and they're good. So, yes, experimentation. I love doing all of that. But also when there are good recipes out there. So just to give you an example, my shortbread that I make is my recipe from my Mrs. Beeton's cookbook. So, my Christmas cake that I make, the recipe from that is a Mary Berry recipe, because I know that it's tasty and it works. But with my food, I like to ensure that everyone has the same dining experience. So I do my research. So for people that are gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, vegetarian, all of those kinds of things, I want them to have as tasty a food, if not tastier, than what everyone else is getting. So I do experimentation and do my research as well. So yeah.
Okay, great.
There was one more question, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was one. How do you select which teas go with served food?
Which teas? Well, I'm kind of a traditionalist. The main tea that I tend to serve is Yorkshire tea, because it is such a tasty, full flavoured tea, and it's so nice. But I also carry with me a selection of other things as well. So obviously decaffeinated tea and coffee is gaining much more in popularity. But I also have the traditional things like Earl Grey, chamomile, peppermint tea. I have some fruit teas as well. And I even have a creme brulee tea as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
okay, great.
I mean, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of different teas. And when I send my biscuits out, sometimes for clients as well, they will have teas to go in with them. So I try and put interesting selections in just to
Okay. So finally, Adi says, what is your vision for your business?
So my vision for my business, obviously, I did briefly touch on it, is that
Yeah.
moving forward, I am moving more into, I am going to be moving away from the doorstep deliveries of individual boxes of afternoon tea. So I'm, as you know, as we're clearing COVID, I'm very much moving back out of that. I will still, obviously, I should definitely be doing tea parties for events. So I do anything from intimate tea parties in people's homes to weddings, anniversaries, birthdays. I do funeral wakes. I'm also putting on my own events as well, so tea parties with theme and with like live musical entertainment, and also working in the corporate sector as well. So that's my vision, is to take that forward. I would love to have my own premises to be able to serve people there because it is a dining experience, with all of the food, because it's all homemade in my kitchens. And I'd love to, in the future, obviously with the biscuits and stuff as well, is to build the subscription, and yeah. So that's going forward.
Great. Now, thank you very much, Julia, for sharing your inspiring story. I think you've seen that in the chat as well. It's not just me saying that. So what we're going to be doing now is going into breakout rooms. It's just for us to sort of meet and mix, especially for those that want to use this time to grow their network. So Namfon, our community host, assistant community host, will be sort of putting us into breakout sessions here. So, and that would just be for roughly 4 to 5 minutes. It's just for you to sort of introduce yourself, exchange contacts if you wish, and then we'll come back in to round up the chat. So Namfon, all to you. I'll call on Tim very quickly. Tim, do you want to just leave us with some?
I want to express appreciation to Julia for sharing her very tasty story of her entrepreneurial journey, and Winifred for accommodating all of us, and for the participants for being a part of this. We all learn and build our own expertise when we share experiences with others. And certainly today was inspirational, as somebody put into the chat bot, that it develops creative minds among all of us. And certainly makes this a much better world and a closer world. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has anything to say before we leave. So if not, again, I'd like to say thank you again. So many thank yous, but thank you very much, Julia, for giving us your time. I know how busy it can be for you, so thank you very much. Thank you also to everyone in the audience that has taken out some time to join us today, this 1 hour. Thank you very much. And so as time goes on, once the recording is ready, I'll send it out. If you've not joined, you're very welcome to join the business operations community on Founders and Mentors. That's, it's a pre-launch ecosystem for the it's a global mentoring platform for the pre-launch ecosystem. I said it the other way around. So it's free, there's mentoring, there's so many communities on there. I run the business operations community. That's the link in the chat for you to join. Adi runs the co-founders community, like you'd know already. Finding a co-founder is, there was a time I spoke to an entrepreneur, he said, finding a co-founder is much more difficult than finding a life partner. So Adi runs a very, very important community on there. So please join us. And also Tim is part of the people that run the US Founders and Mentors. So if you're based in the States and you want to join, there's a USA community on there. So thank you again for your time. And we'll be in touch. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Okay. Lovely to meet everybody.
All right, then. Bye. Bye, Julia. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.